Representative Royce has really nice indoor-outdoor spaces. We'll just be seeing if there's any availability.
Yes, babe. Okay, guys, stand by. Good morning, Madam President. We are recording.
This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Water and Power Commissioners. Today is Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022. This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. General Counsel.
Good morning. In conformity with California Assembly Bill AB 361 and due to public health concerns and directives issued by the Mayor of Los Angeles and the Los Angeles County Public Health Department regarding reducing the spread of COVID-19, this meeting of the Board of Water and Power Commissioners will be conducted with some commissioners appearing virtually from remote locations. All public comment will be taken telephonically. If you would like to offer public comment, please call 213-306-3065. Again, that number is 213-306-3065. When prompted, please enter meeting number 249-562-66369. Again, the prompt number is 249-562-66369. When calling in, please state if you are speaking on general public comment or a specific agenda item. You will have 2 minutes per item, up to a total of 5 minutes for all items. It is important that when you speak that you turn down your computer so that we don't get feedback. We may announce a recess if we lose a quorum or have technical difficulties. At this point, I will turn it back over to the Board Secretary.
Thank you. I will now take roll. President McCLAIN-HILL.
Present.
Vice President Reyes.
Present.
Commissioner BARAD Hopkins.
Present.
Commissioner LEHRER.
Present.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady.
Present.
5 members present in a quorum. I will now turn it over to President McCLAIN-HILL.
Thank you. Rather than begin this morning with opening comments, it is my actual pleasure to open the meeting with a presentation. This is the continuation of Women's History Month. I spoke at length about that at our last board meeting, and we had an initial presentation of the department, some of the department's activities during Women's History Month. This meeting, however, will begin by moving up one of our management reports, the report from our Employee Resource Group, SWE. So I would like to invite them to kick off our meeting today.
Good morning, and I can take it off.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. While we are operating under COVID protocols, during the meeting, speakers may remove their masks to speak.
Thank you so much. Good morning and happy Women's History Month. We are here to celebrate also our 4th year anniversary of LADWP, Society of Women Engineers, and also to give you an update as to what we have done in the last 4 years and also what our future plans are. And my name is Leah Mulat. I am the current president of Society of Women Engineers. I work in Water Distribution Division and Construction Support. And here with me to present is Blanca Herrera. She's the vice president representing the power system. And just to give you a history of our establishment, we were established back in 2018, March. Our founding members was led by Evelyn Cortez Davis, and 5 of us were together, myself, Darlene Trong, Sabi Valdez, and Eugenia Lin. The picture you see up on top is the planning committee, hard at work. And in March of 2018, the opening ceremony, the inauguration of it was the picture you see at the bottom. And from then on, we were, established and got into establishing the board and working together to get to this day.
LADWP SUI stands by its mission, which is to stimulate employees to achieve a full potential in their career by providing a supportive networking opportunities, mentoring, and fostering a culture that recognizes and respects the contribution of all. I think it is important to recognize that our mission is all-inclusive to all employees. We embrace our male members as well as our STEM and non-STEM members equally. We wanted to highlight some statistics to showcase our success and growth. As Leah mentioned, LADWP SUI started with a committee of 5 women, and we have slowly grown our membership to over 220 members. LADWP has 1,428 engineers. Out of that, 20% are women, and with a female population of the city of LA of 50%. We have a little bit of work to close that gap. Also wanted to recognize that LADWP SUI currently has over 230 members. Out of that, we have 30% members, 14% non-STEM members, and LADWP SUI membership has over 36 classifications within its membership. And even with the difficulties of COVID, we have managed to slowly grow at a steady pace our membership.
So just to give you an update from our last 4 years, the way we function is breaking up our strategies into 3 different categories, which is by supporting our members, recruiting the best and the brightest for the department, and also transforming, and means looking at our next generation of girls to be interested in STEM field. So in terms of support, we've held a number of leadership training series, and also mentoring program. Our pilot mentoring program was actually just getting completed this month. And we have about 30 participants, both as mentors and mentees. And we had several networking events and employees appreciation, members appreciation events that we held in the past, both virtually and also in person. There's interview preparation events that we've held, panel discussions to prepare our members to upcoming interviews that they may have, and also PE and EIT, professional engineering and engineering and training study discounts that we've provided to our members as well.
Another one of our pillars is to recruit. This is critical to DWP as our company continues to grow, and we require to hire new talent. Over the years, we have maintained a strong presence in both national and regional SUI conferences. We have supported over 200 LADWP SUI members to attend both with SUI national and regional conferences. We also have a heavy presence when it comes to speakers. We had over 14 speakers at multiple conferences over the years. As a matter of fact, Evelyn Cortez was the opening keynote speaker for SUI Regional this past year. Even with that, we continue to participate as raters during the SUI conferences. We contribute to local universities. We try to prepare our community as best as we can. Moving to the second pillar, which is to transform. And the big picture for this, in essence, is to transform and reshape the way women are seen in the field of STEM. The big picture is that one day the phrase, oh, you're a woman engineer, is not seen with a sense of awe or surprise, but with a sense of normality. And so we do this through our K-12 outreach. We do a lot of volunteering at our local elementaries, middle schools, and high school. As a matter of fact, we have over 600 hours of outreach volunteer hours, and that is to doing presentations, career day, bring your children to work day, and other events of that sort. So we continue to have a strong presence in the community and engage our communities with the whole goal that we want to transform the way women are seen in the field of STEM and to bring the next generation of women engineers into the field.
Thank you, Blanca. So now we're looking at the future and just want to give you a bit of highlights. We have a lot in store, but these are some of the highlights we want to bring to you. First one is increased targeted recruitment. So we are working with our human resources and the DEI office to update our recruitment information that we have, videos and materials, and also to be present at the national conferences. So the next one coming up this year is in Houston, Texas. And also the one that we're very much excited about is in 2023, next year, the national conference will be right here in Los Angeles, right here in downtown LA. So we want to be prepared for that, to have a strong presence and bring more engineers, more women engineers also to work for the Department of Water and Power. That's one. And we're working on our education committee chairs are working hard to put together a series of training classes, kind of the one that we had in the past for a leadership training series. That is coming up as well. There's a full-scale mentoring program in my earlier slide that I mentioned about a pilot program being put together and now concluding. With some limitations that we are working out with our DEI office and HR, we're trying to expand that to a full-scale program this coming fiscal year. The program guidelines are already completed and ready to go, so we're hoping to expand that to a full-scale program for our members to benefit from. And the next one, which we're very much excited about, is LADWP has already established partnership with GALA, which is Girls Academic Leadership Academy. And we want to expand on that. We want to expand our partnership on that and adopt the school as a SWE. This is a school that is an LAUSD all-girls school that are focused in STEM. So we feel like this is perfect fit to what we stand for, and we want to work and expand the partnership and the participation with this school in the coming year.
Excuse me, what's the name of the school?
GALA.
It's GALA is the name of it.
Yeah. It's and then the last event is, or what we have planned is a virtual tutoring program for our employees' children. So a survey is going to be conducted and work is getting in the works right now. So all this is being done, and these are the people that are working behind the scenes. We have 17 board members. We have 6 committee chairs, secretaries, and treasurer. And some of them are here with us today. If you could please stand up. And I will introduce our advisors and our committee members are Jennifer and Irma and Michelle and Elise. These are our board members, and the rest of them unfortunately cannot be here because of COVID restrictions, but I'm sure they're watching and just want to recognize them. And we do have 2 executive advisors. Want to also recognize them. If you could stand up as well. Nermina Rusik-O'Neill, she is the manager of Generating Station and Facilities Engineering Section. And Heidi Harioka, she's a water system chief of staff. And they carve out time from their busy schedule to be present to all of our meetings, providing advice and leadership and support and provide information. So really appreciate their support, and thank you. And I would also like to thank the department from the general manager and the commissioners, and also the DEI office that is recently established. They've been supporting us from day one of their establishment. and they provide us information, sponsorships, and they basically said, what can we do for you is all they ask for. And so we really appreciate their support. And last but not least, and I want to mention that when the Women's Council, when it gets established here at LADWP, we got very excited about it with our very own Commissioner McCLAIN-HILL and LaTanya Bogan being the co-chairs and all the council. And I like to call them as big sisters. And we, with you guys by our side, I feel like we can do so many great things, not just for the women engineers, but for all women here at LADWP. And thank you so much. Any questions and comments?
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
I just want to.
Go ahead, Susana.
I just want to appreciate all of you, congratulate you for this milestone. So happy that we are all lifting up our women friends and employees and really showing and demonstrating an example of what can be done if we have everybody, working together on this. And most especially, I would like to really put out there that there's still much work to do. As you said, a 20% representation, but we have 50% of women in the LA population. But we are in the right direction. I strongly encourage and support your organization, and I commend all of you for all the hard work that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to echo that and simply say that I remember when SWE was established and what an exciting day that was. And I am astounded at how much life you've breathed into both the organization and the department. It's been really gratifying to watch other groups form in the model of SWE, but to know that you were the first. And I am so grateful and so excited to be working with you, with the Women's Council. And I think our entire board is committed to seeing access to this organization in terms of employment at every level in every position expand for women. And really excited about your work with Gala as well. It's a terrific school, and reaching down to give a hand to young women or to girls actually, and showing them what I guess the new slogan out there is "See her." And it's really clear. If you can see it, you can be it. And so just your presence is inspiring, and your presence creates opportunities for others. So thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you.
Anything else? Did I cut anybody off? Mia, I'm sorry.
Yes, I want to also echo what's been said by the commissioners, and it's wonderful to see what you've accomplished. Really would actually like to talk to one or two of you, perhaps at some point, about how a similar program could be established for architects and landscape architects who are part of, as landscape architects, we deal with some of the issues of resiliency that you all address, and it would be great to figure out ways to, at least learn and maybe create another program that includes other professionals that could also kind of make their way through in terms of the DWP system, but also sharing the different pathways that young women can take professionally.
Thank you. I want to also mention that that's a great point, and thank you for pointing that out. We actually are embracing not just women engineers. This establishment is to embrace not everyone in the field of engineering, non-STEM, and any science related as well, so biologists, scientists. So until that, we can expand it to that point, which is already our organization is expanded to that aspect as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and before we move on, thank you very much. We appreciate the presentation, and in keeping with the opening remarks, I'd like to yield to Commissioner NEEMAN. Brady.
Thank you. I just also wanted to make note that today is World Water Day. And, the World Water Day celebrates water and raises awareness for the 2 billion people living without access to safe water. And we in Los Angeles are very lucky and privileged to have safe and reliable water. But we also have to recognize our obligation to conserve. And it should not be lost on anyone that we have not received any precipitation this past, since January. Since actually December, frankly. So we must do our part, and I just wanted to acknowledge the day and the hardworking team of our water staff for continuing to champion this issue of conservation, and we remind everyone to do their part. And I also love that World Water Day happens during Women's History Month. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. We'll move on to general public comment. Board Secretary.
Good morning, callers. Please state your full name and the agenda item you will be speaking on. Please be mindful that you will have 2 minutes per comment. The first caller is area code 714 and the last 2 digits 74. Caller, are you there? We'll move to the next caller with the area code 760, the last 2 digits 06.
Hello, my name is Allison Weber, and I'll be making general public comment.
Go ahead.
I'd like to offer the thanks to the board for acknowledging World Water Day and the importance of conserving this water and recognizing the strife that goes into getting water to all individuals in California. Representing the Keep Long Valley Green Coalition, I also want this day to remind the board where much of their water comes from the Eastern Sierra. As locals to the Eastern Sierra, the Keep Long Valley Green Coalition wants to stress the importance of working with this community to supply water both to LA ratepayers as well as members of the Eastern Sierra, both human, flora, and fauna. This World Water Day, we are hosting an event called Without Water. It is a virtual film premiere, and we encourage anyone to come to it as we really want to build the community around water. We do not want to fight against LADWP, but rather with them to supply water to all. Thank you, and we hope moving forward that Eastern Sierra and LADWP can work in tandem.
Thank you. The next caller is Eris Hovaspian.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. My name is Aris Hovaspian. I represent Los Angeles Community College District as the Energy and Utilities Manager. And I want to first thank the commissioners for the opportunity for public comment and thank the Department of Water and Power for being such a great partner for all of the energy efficiency and water conservation programs that they offer, of which LACCD is a constant participant in these programs. The reason I'm calling today is to kindly request the Board of Commissioners and the Executive Management to consider the crafting and implementation of a standard digital signature policy across the department. This is an area that's been very, very challenging when submitting applications for different programs and rebates and incentives, where different work groups have varying practices of accepting digital signatures or not accepting digital signatures. In some cases, I've been asked to submit a wet signature through the mail. In some cases, a digital signature has been accepted. In some cases, I've been asked to print out the form, have it signed, scan it as a PDF and email it in lieu of a digital signature through a common platform like DocuSign. My understanding is that there is no existing policy in place across the department in terms of accepting or not accepting digital signatures, and each work group determines their own. And so my ask or my request is that there be consideration given at least from a customer care perspective, to have some sort of consistent uniform policy, and even if there are exceptions, to at least communicate to customers about what type of signature would be available ahead of time, rather than reject applications or contracts or MOUs and ask for a different signature method after they're submitted. So again, I do want to say that overall we enjoy our partnership with LADWP on the various programs that are offered, and would love to participate in more and additional innovative technologies and innovative incentives and partnership opportunities. And I hope that that's taken care of, and we can participate more easily through the acceptance of digital signatures and convenient ways for customers to partake in those offers and programs. Thank you.
Thank you. The last public comment is an extension, I think, within the department. So it's last two digits are 88. If you are calling to speak, please state your name and the item number. Okay, that will now close all public comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Adams.
Thank you very much, and good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Nice to see everybody here this morning, and we're getting there.
We're getting there.
Slow but sure. Along those lines, I just wanted to mention, I know we have a long agenda today, it's just a couple quick things. First of all, following our last meeting and talking about return to office, I did send a return to office message video up. Following the decrease in the surge in Omicron, we're back to the same schedule that we had now before the holidays, which is most employees in the office space are here 1 to 2 days a week, with supervisors and managers 2 to 3 days a week. Some are here more often than that. JFB is roughly about a third full right now, and we're doing very well on our COVID, both virus infection and exposure numbers. And so we're continuing with the protocols. Also, I've let employees know that we are working toward a May 1st more formal return to office, which will still involve heavy use of telecommuting. Envision that throughout the summer and fall, but just a little more format, a little more customized to make sure that any things that we've fallen short on, that we're able to handle all the activities that the department needs to be taking care of. And then long term, of course, we're still working toward the long-term future work plan, hoping to dovetail that in, really looking at how to be innovative as an employer for the future. So we are working on all those things actively, and employees have been made aware, and we're continuing to notify everyone. Also want to note, yesterday I participated along with Councilmember Monica Rodriguez and the LABC, LA Business Council, on a FIT workshop. It was a feed and tariff program that we have. Also talked about our net energy metering program. Yeah, it was really focused on owners of multifamily properties and business properties in Sun Valley and Pacoima area of Northeast Valley. We had good turnout. Michael Buck, the manager of Distributed Energy Resources, was online with me as well. Really trying to pitch our programs, get more folks to contact us and work with us to put solar on multifamily roofs to help both themselves out and their tenants out. And so it was a great program. LABC has been a very strong supporter of our FIT program, which of course is the largest feed and tariff program in the country, and continues to be very successful. Last thing I want to do is keeping with our theme today, because it is Women's History Month. We we talked about the walk around Hollywood Reservoir, which was fantastic and very well attended. Last week, our corporate communications put up a online photo display of both historical and current photos of women in the workplace. and how jobs have changed and the careers have moved forward over the years. And that's available online through all our social media platforms, as well as some internal links through the internet. And then next week we have a virtual panel taking place at lunchtime on March 29th. It's called Breaking the Bias Then and Now. That'll feature both current and former employees who've made a real impact here at the department in terms of women and careers. Along those lines, I did want to share with the board 2 of the new recruiting videos that we've done. They're beginning, we have a whole series coming. The first one, I'll have Brian Wilbur introduce his and his women in non-traditional roles and share a brief video that we have to get the word out. And then I'll turn it over to Anselmo to show a video that Water has done as well and give us a report on what Commissioner NEEMAN Brady noted was not only World Water Day, but in California it's almost World Waterless Day, and where we're heading with that and what the drought has in store for us. So Brian, go ahead, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Marty. Good morning, Commissioners. So as Marty said, in an effort to increase and promote women in non-traditional jobs here at the department, our communication group, working with the workforce development groups and with our construction directors, they put together a series of videos featuring our employees performing their duties and speaking about their jobs. So this first video features Hannah Cooper, who's a journey level electrical mechanic for our power construction and maintenance group. This is the first of many videos that you'll be seeing in the future. So I'll introduce, this is Hannah Cooper.
My name is Hannah Cooper, and I'm an electrical mechanic with LADWP. Before I came to work for LADWP, I went through an electrical apprenticeship program with IBEW Local 11, and I was an inside wireman in the private sector with them for 9 years. I was an inside wireman at Local 11. I was working as a foreman, running crews, building hospitals and new terminals at the airport, and I was looking towards my future, and I was thinking about my longevity in this career, and was familiar with DWP from working with them on new construction job sites. And my mother actually worked for the city of LA and was aware that LADWP was hiring. So she recommended that I apply. Everyone in the industry knows that DWP pays really fair wages and has incredible benefits. So it was really appealing for me, thinking about the back end of my career, what kind of environment I wanted to work in. This job is definitely non-traditional for women because historically only men have done it. But there's no reason why women can't do it. It's great because I have a union job, so I show up to work, I do the same job as the guy next to me, and I know I'm gonna get paid the same amount as him, and I don't have to fight for that. So the great thing about a union job is your benefits are fought for and protected and guaranteed regardless of gender, regardless of race. So it really is a great place for a woman to work. There is no gender gap in pay when you're working for a union. There's definitely challenges being a minority in the workplace. Regardless of which minority you are in any workplace, you just are different by definition. So there's challenges in perception, there's challenges in acceptance, there's challenges in opportunities. But for me, I just remember how much I love the job. I just remember why I'm here and where I'm going, and I don't let anyone stand in my way. To any woman who already worked for LADWP, if you're interested in working with your hands, absolutely apply for the EMT program. It's a great job, it's fun, it's challenging, it's rewarding. You already work for the department, so there's gonna be a pretty smooth transition coming in here. And if I can do the work, so can you. I take a tremendous amount of pride in the work that I do. It's my time away from my personal life, it's the time away from my family and friends. And it's really important to me to make that count. It's really rewarding and gratifying to work with your hands. You actually build something and then see the result of your labor. It's really rewarding to me. It's really satisfying. We build new structures, we fix and troubleshoot existing structures that aren't working properly, and we make everything work better for the people of LA. I live in the city of LA. I pay LADWP for power. When my power goes out, my life is terribly inconvenienced. So it's nice to remember that and remember that we're part of the solution and we're part of getting power out to the city.
Thank you, Brian. Anselmo, would you like to introduce your video and then give your report afterwards?
Absolutely. Good morning, Commissioners. Following up with the video that we just saw from Hannah, I wanted to take the opportunity and show you a video that was done of a water treatment supervisor. Her name is Jackie Ochoa. And I also wanted to take the opportunity and give some credit to the folks in the water system that are working in a committee. This is part of our strategic goals. And we have a small group of women that have been leading this charge. And they came up with the concept of doing these videos to particularly target current employees who may be looking to make a change. So the video is ready. We can go ahead and show it. Her name is Jackie Ochoa. She is a water treatment supervisor for the Water Operations Division.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Ochoa. I'm a water treatment supervisor for the Department of Water and Power, and I've been with the department for 35 years. When I started at the Department of Water and Power, I was a commercial service rep. I worked out of the Van Nuys branch office, and customers would come in, they want to pay their bills, I would handle that. They'd want to start new service, sign them up for water and power, took care of any issues that they might have. So it was the first one-on-one with customers to come in and actually help them with all their needs. From there, I took an interest in water. I wanted another job, wanted to improve and increase my skills. I applied for the water service rep job and received that position. And from there, it was downtown. As a water service representative, my role changed a little bit, began to grow, and I dealt more with developers, new construction of homes, putting the line in the street, main in the street, development for large facilities, tracts of homes, and it was very rewarding. A friend of a friend started talking, and I took an interest because I was interested in water treatment. He so happened to work at the filtration plant in water treatment, and he provided some information on classes that I would need if I desired to be a water treatment operator. I got to learn the information for the state, how many classes I need, how many units, and I took those classes and was able to take the exam with the state of California, and I got my treatment operator's license as well as the distribution operator license. And from there, I was ready. Whenever the city allowed the job to open, I was able to take the test. So I had the paperwork needed and prepared. When the opportunity came up and the job opened up as water treatment supervisor, I applied for the job, was able to secure an interview, and accepted a position in 2010. I do consider this job as non-traditional for women because there's not a lot of women in this field, but there's also not a lot of women that are qualified, that have the state exam, and that's what differentiates any person is you have to have that state exam, state certificate for treatment, state certificate for distribution in order to get started in your career. So you already have that limited pool for women, but it's a great opportunity for you to get in a job that's exciting, different, and can be the best career that you could ever have dreamed of. Sometimes challenges are what you put on yourself, and you can rise above those challenges by believing in yourself, opening your eyes, reading, learning, and make every effort to make every moment at your job the best moment. And that's what's going to differentiate you. You will learn. You can do it. In the past, I've been asked what roles I think women play in the department, and the answer is pretty simple. It's the role that you choose to play is what roles you're destined to. There's plenty of opportunity to be able to use your talents and however you want. You don't have to be pigeonholed in this one position. So do it, try it. Don't let your self-imposed doubts limit you from a great career in a non-traditional job.
Great, so that's the first of several videos that we're going to be actually completing. We have a second one already done. Hopefully in the future we'll get to show you all the videos, but I think you can see that these two examples are just a great way to communicate the message that women do belong in non-traditional jobs and they can excel. In Jackie's case, she's a supervisor. And by the way, she talked about the STIR certification. She's at T5. That's the highest level certification the state issues. So that just tells you that the sky's the limit, and she's a great example of what women can do in the Department of Water and Power. I do have a couple other things to Commissioner Brady. Thank you for mentioning World Water Day. By the way, the theme for this year is groundwater, making the invisible visible. So, which is great for us because, as you know, we've been focusing on groundwater remediation and groundwater recharge, and that's going to be the future for LA. So it just lines up very nicely with the theme for this year. I wanted to provide a short update on the water supply. With no major storms that we've had in the last several months since January, basically, this is the driest January, February, March in the history of California, fortunately. So what has happened, this has resulted in the Department of Water Resources reducing the state water project allocation from an initial 15% down to 5%. And basically that means that Metropolitan Water District will have access to only 100,000 acre-feet of water from the state water project. That's not a lot of water. With the low allocation supply and storage in reservoirs at historic low, we have not seen a drought situation like this before, where certain parts of Southern California will be more severely impacted than others. I want to remind everybody and urge everybody to take a closer look at how they use water inside their house and also outside, and to take the necessary steps to not waste water and use water more efficiently. We are coordinating with the Metropolitan Water District and the other impacted member agencies on the next steps, and we are prepared to take additional steps ourselves too when the time requires. Such additional steps include operational adjustments to shift water away from the state water project and put more of that demand on the Colorado River Aqueduct, other supply augmentation strategies that we have, and possibly implementing higher phases of our water conservation ordinance. We will be meeting with the mayor's office shortly to speak to them also about next steps to make sure that we are on the same page with the mayor's office. And the Metropolitan Water District happens to be having their board meeting today also, and staff is going to be getting additional direction from the Metropolitan Board on the next steps that they will be taking as the regional wholesaler. We, DWP, will be providing a more comprehensive presentation to this board in April, talking about the water supply situation for the year. So you will expect to see more from us on this. I'd had one more item I wanted to mention. I wanted to make an announcement. One of our directors, Mike Manukian, who is the Director of Water Quality, has announced his retirement effective June 1st. So in anticipation of his retirement, I actually have named the Deputy Director who will be replacing Raz when he retires. His name is Jonathan Leung. Jonathan happens to be here in the audience. Jonathan, why don't you get up? So Jonathan is a long member of the water system family. He's been with us for over 31 years. Jonathan happens to have the distinct pleasure of working in every single division in the water system, as well as working in the general manager's office and a short stint in the power system. So he has a wealth of experience. So I wanted to make sure that you knew who Jonathan was, since he will be taking over for Raz as Director of Water Quality Division June 1st. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments regarding the general manager's report or any of the managers who have supplemented that report? I don't see any. A couple things. The videos are terrific. Thank you for sharing. One of the things, though, that I will be interested in working with the department around, and I know the Women's Council will be focused on, is beginning to provide information in that is more actionable for people who might be interested in these careers. And I say that because when I was a kid 100 years ago and wanted to be a lawyer, I understood exactly what I needed to do in my teens to become a lawyer. And when I was in college, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I knew which schools I needed to go to. I knew which degrees I needed to get. I knew the level that I needed to graduate at to get into the law school. I could chart out my career path in that fashion. Even as I sit here today, I can't tell you how to become any job, and in particular, any non-traditional job in this department. I know how to become an engineer, but I don't know how to become, any of the jobs that have been represented in these videos. I don't know what the actual, I wouldn't be able to tell someone who was 18 what their next step should be as it relates to preparing to enter these fields. And I think that's a lot of where the mystery is. So there's the idea, I'd love to be X, understanding as a young person what precisely you need to do to become X is, I think, where we need to also have some focus. And making sure that the people who guide people understand how to enter these fields. So that's, in my view, a huge gap that that we can begin to fill as we are thinking about how we recruit. So that's my only observation, but I'm really pleased to see the department's continued focus on women, and in particular women in non-traditional roles. And also look very much forward to our actual response to the devastating drought that the region is experiencing, recognizing that this is our reality. And so being able to communicate in a clear way to our residents what that means for how they live, and also tying that more significantly to the work that the department is doing in order to ensure greater or continued reliability and greater resiliency as we move forward, I think is very important. So thank you for that. Do we have any comments from Ratepayer Advocate at this time, or should I expect to see those later in the meeting?
We can make comments now on a couple items, so that if possible, it can go on consent. The first is item 18, which is a couple projects grouped together into one item, and we've reviewed this in detail and recommend approval, and we believe the NOC costs for overtime in this process are reasonable. Second, items 1 through 7 on healthcare plans. While we haven't reviewed those individually, we completed an update of the 2016 total compensation study last fall based on 2019 data. And while DWP's healthcare costs were a little high relative to the industry, their pension costs were a little lower or a little less attractive. So in combination, the total benefits cost combined with the median level of total compensation means that this is all fairly compensated.
Okay, thank you for that. Also, I think I skipped introduction of motions, item E. I'm not aware of any motions to be introduced at this time for future consideration. So we will move to item G, discussion with neighborhood councils.
No community impact statements or formal positions were filed by any neighborhood councils on the items on today's agenda.
All right, thank you for that. Then we will go to the next item, H, where we will look at items that we are prepared to address on consent. I am aware of items 1 through 8, which will need to be
1 through 7.
I'm sorry, it's only 7?
1 through 7.
Okay, 1 through 7, which we will need to take up specially since Commissioner Reyes is recused from voting on those items. Items 8 through 20, are there any items that any board member would like to hear? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve items 8 through 20?
So moved. I move to approve items L8 to L20.
So I have a motion from Commissioner NEEMAN Brady as well to approve those items. So I will take Commissioner Reyes' motion as a second. Would you call the roll, please?
President McCLAIN-HILL?
Aye.
Vice President Reyes?
Aye.
Commissioner BARAD Hopkins?
Aye.
Commissioner LEHRER?
Aye.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Terrific. We'll take up items 1 through 7 at the end of the meeting prior to moving into closed session. With that, we will move to management reports, and I understand that I4, that FSO has requested a deferral, so we'll defer that presentation. We'll begin with item 1. I'm sorry, item 2, the presentation on power system reliability.
So I'd like to introduce David Hansen. He's our Assistant Director for Power Transmission and Distribution, and Sagar Faraj, who's our manager, Power Engineering Manager over Distribution Engineering section. Just on a side note, this will be Sagar's last presentation to the board. He'll be retiring, and Sagar's been here for 33 years. I've known him for most of my career. He's handled a lot of different groups. If you've heard him present before, you're very familiar with him. On a side note, I do want to say that, you know, from a construction point of view, from my side of the field, in dealing with the engineering side, Sagar has always been honest, the highest integrity, truly one of my favorite engineers that work here in the department. So actually, truly one of my favorite people that work here in the department. So I wanted to publicly thank you for all that you've done here, and I appreciate everything that you've done. It helped me all the way through here. So Sagar's one of our tremendous talents. He's been working on mentoring our newer managers and our future engineers in the future of this company. So he's been doing a fantastic job, and I just want to appreciate him. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Sir.
All right. So I think here we have been waiting for this presentation for a while, and I think we got some good information for you guys, and we're going to get started. So I'm going to give you basically good morning, commissioners. My name is Sagar Faraj. As Brian said, I'm the manager of distribution engineering in the Power Engineering and Technical Services Division. Today, I and my colleague, Mr. Dave Hansen, will present to you on Power System Reliability Program, known as PSRP. So our presentation has two parts to it. The first is we're going to give you an update on our accomplishments for fiscal year 2021. And this second presentation is basically on our proposed PSRP revamp. So the revamp is necessary to meet the LA 100 goals, to ensure DWP's smooth transaction into the 100% clean energy with high levels of electrifications. So with that, I'm going to just share with you some backgrounds and objectives of the program itself. So as we all know, LADWP is responsible for ensuring power that is safe, reliable, and cost-effective to our customers. So some background, back in 2006 and 2007, we experienced several a heat storm that caused a lot of our distribution transformers on the poles and in the vaults, in the underground, to fail. We had probably over 800 of them during the heat storm. That causes the department to pause, and because we used to be reactive. As things happen, we used to go and jump on it and fix it. But now we try to focus on something proactive. What we did is we formed what's called a PRP back in 2007, which is the Power Reliability Program. And the main focus of the Power Reliability Program was to address distribution issues. So we did that for a while, and we were able to go through several years of upgrades until 2014. So the department executives got together and they said, we need to basically to replace the PRP with the new programs called PSRP, which includes all components of the power system. As we all know, the power system consists of generation, transmission, substation, and distribution. And that's what the PSRP started doing, taking care of all these assets. And basically our objective to start proactive replacements and maintenance. We were trying to minimize the operationals and repair costs, and we were trying to standardize materials and processes. And all that we needed to do to improve our reliability. And so for the second part of the presentation is we need to really evaluate and revamp our distribution system upgrade targets to meet the LA 100 goals, which includes the high level of electrifications. Now I would like to hand it over to Mr. Hansen to go over our fiscal year 2021 PSRP accomplishments.
Thank you, Sagar. Good morning, commissioners. For our 2021 targets on the generation side,
We had a target to complete 4 major inspections, and actually 5 were completed through a combination of efforts through power supply operations and power construction and maintenance divisions. Haynes units 1, 8, and 10 were inspected with the rotors replaced, and then as well as 2 hydro units at Castaic and the Middle Gorge out in Owens Valley. Completed an inspection and repair. Next slide. Another target to replace 2 generator transformers. These are the large power banks at the generating stations. We missed this target through a combination of resource staffing and rotational work assignments, some material supply issues and delays on manufacturers. But at this time, we do have the Castaic power plant has had an additional transformer. We missed the target by June, but it has been since commissioned and is in service, as well as the second replacement transformer at Castaic. The last one there, you can see San Fernando. It's held up with the design issues. They discovered a large cavity underneath the base of the transformer that has to be resolved. So that one's kind of on hold for right now. Next slide. On the transmission side, our target was to replace 3 138 kV underground transmission circuits and install 24 maintenance lid hole restraints. We exceeded both of those targets by 1. Just to make that target in today's environment with everything that's going on with resources is quite an accomplishment. So we're pretty proud of that on the transmission side. Next slide. On substation, we did miss some targets here, and it's easy to look at substations as one division, but it's actually power supply operations, power construction and maintenance, and power transmission and distribution all working together to perform this work. So any material delays or resource conflicts in any one of those 3 divisions, as well as the Energy Control Center, has an impact to our targets. We had a goal to replace 2 receiving station and switching station transformers each, and we replaced 3 and 3. We missed on the distribution side. Our goal was 21. We hit 13. A few years ago, they started that summer planning project, which has now been renamed the Resiliency Project. So it identifies distribution transformers in need of replacement so we don't have those outages when the heat waves hit. And 21's been our goal. We've exceeded it the last few years, but we missed this year. Circuit breaker replacement, 36 was the target. We replaced 32, but we did complete 77 life extensions. There's special crews in the PCM division that go around and overhaul and replace operating mechanisms on the circuit breakers. So those that we can't get to for replacements, we can at least overhaul them and extend their life. And on the SAS side, substation automation, the goal was 12 and we hit 9. Next slide. So a snapshot of what makes up our distribution assets, poles, cross arms, underground cables, and transformers, both overhead and underground. Next slide. Our 2021 replacement targets for our distribution assets, you can see in red for replace, that's condition-based replacements, equipment that's identified as failing or in need of replacement. And then the overall includes new business, expansion, system growth, or any other replacements that aren't covered by the condition-based. For the cross arms and transformers, those targets will be going up for next fiscal year. Cross arms will go to 10,000, transformers will go to 1,000, 1,050. So we are upping that target. Next slide. So now I'll turn it back to Sagar, talk about reliability benchmarking.
So utilities power reliability is measured throughout the industry and regulatory by indices known as SAIFI, SAIDI, KD, and MEFI. So this graphs here represents the SAIFI. The SAIFI is basically the System Average Interruption Frequency Index. What does that mean? It means the average number of interruptions a customer can experience in 1 year. As you could tell here in this graph, we have compared ourselves to other state IOUs. And the reason we are comparing ourselves to the IOUs because we are the largest municipal utility in the United States. So all the other POUs within California, they're much, much smaller. The second largest municipal utility is SMUD. It's only 1/3 of our size. So it's not really fair to compare ourselves to the POUs. That's why we're comparing ourselves to basically to Edison, which is represented in red, PG&E represented in green, and San Diego Gas and Electric represented in purple, and we are the first column, which is in blue. The solid line on this graph basically gives you the safety numbers without major event days. What's a major event days? A major event days is basically defined by the IEEE as it's a day when you have the safety deviates more than 2.5% of the SAIDIs for the prior 5 years. Major events meaning a huge windstorm, could be a wildfire, could be a rainstorm. So if you look at the solid colors, we are really doing well compared to the other utilities. Once we add the major events, which is the dashed line, basically we're still doing much better. And one of the reasons we are, the major events does not impact us more than the other IOUs because our territory is so defined. We are in urban areas, and so therefore we are less impacted with these major events like the IOUs with wildfires and storm drains. Their territory is much bigger than us, and so they see the impacts from these major event days. Next is what's called the SAIDI, which is the System Average Interruption Index, and basically is once a customer is out, how long do they expect to be out? That's the average time in minutes. And as you could tell here, we are doing fairly well compared to others when we add the major events because we are not experiencing a lot of major events compared to other IOUs. For the reasons I basically told you that. So we're doing fine. And let me go back to the third one, which is the CAIDI, and with regard, which is basically is the Customer Average Interruption Duration Index. This is basically the average restoration time. How long does it take our crews to identify the fault location, try to dispatch and get to the location and try to make the repairs? As we know, we're not doing as well as the other indices, even compared to the other IOUs. And for several reasons. One, like I said, it's basically, we are basically a territory that is condensed, that has a lot of underground, and we all know if there's a failure in the underground system, it's time consuming to go out, dispatch crews, get to it, navigate through traffic, and locate these faults in the underground system. On an overhead system, if there's a fault, it's easier you drive by, you can see it, and you know, it's in front of your eyes. With the underground, it takes time to do that. That's why this is an indication of also on shortage on resources, on the construction resources, because it takes efforts to locate an underground and to fix an underground fault more than an overhead. So once we add again, the major events, we're doing fairly well compared to others. The last index is...
But what you're really showing us is that as it relates to CAIDI, and then go back one, just because I can't keep up otherwise if I wait, and SAIDI, that, you know, as long as we don't have a major event, these numbers they're not good, but they're not quite as catastrophic. So if you go to CAIDI, looking at the SAIDI and CAIDI, what I'm seeing is if we were to have a major event, our ability to recover from that event is going to be significantly compromised.
Well, let me elaborate on that, then I'll turn it over to David to talk about that. I have been told with major events, with regular events, because of the shortage of staff, construction staffs, it takes a longer time. But when we have major events, because we don't have a lot of major events, the districts and the electric trouble, they are both dispatched to these major events, so they're extremely focused. And because of our underground system, we have a resilient system. So basically, that's why it's not taken as long to recover from the major events. Dave, if you have anything you want to add on that?
No, I think you were hitting on it. Essentially, on a major event day, the outages are concentrated to an area. So if we have the districts report people that are available to work to augment our staffing at electric trouble, we can send them all out to a specific area, converge on that area, and centralize restoration efforts until the power comes back. On the non-major event days, we're scattered throughout our service territory. Even though it is urban and condensed, we still have to deal with traffic and response time and staffing shortages. So we actually do better on a major event day than day-to-day, Katie.
And this information, by the way, is from the CPUC website, because IOUs have to report there. There's another study that was presented to you last meeting. There was a slide from an independent consultant. And basically, for both SAFE, SADI, we were in the fourth quartile. With Katie, we were in the second.
Okay.
One other thing to remember with Katie, we're going to be seeing improvements with basically the expansion of our distribution automation. Installing line sensors is going to help the crews identify the failures much, much faster. So our response time should improve.
What is the timeline for the deployment of those sensors?
So our communication system is being put in place right now. So we're looking at that being completed by the end of this year, calendar year. Right? And then we will start our distribution automation process, which is more line sensing equipment and controlled switches.
And what is that deployment? I imagine it's going to take a while. So.
Right, that'll be another year, and then we'll fall into the AMI portion, which will be our meter sensing equipment.
The last indice that I want to go over, it's basically, we didn't used to report on that, but because Commissioner Brady last year asked for it, we started reporting on that, which is MEFI. MEFI is basically like the SAFE, except it covers the momentary outages. The industry standard, a momentary outage is anything less than 5 minutes. And again, we are doing comparable and okay compared to the other IOUs.
Why do you think SDG&E is so favorable on that?
I'm sorry?
Why do you think SDG&E is?
Yeah, SDG, we always get asked that question. Why are they even doing on most of the categories a lot better than everyone else? One is basically the area. The climate there is much better than everywhere else. Second is they started their power system reliability. They have a similar program, power system reliability program, way ahead of everyone else. So they've already have gained a lot of advantages over all the other utilities.
Okay.
Next, how are we doing with the budget with regard to the PSRP? As we know, the power system reliability budget contains two portions. One is the capital portion, and the second is the O&M. We know the power system reliability budget is over about 1.2 billion a year. And so far for the fiscal year 2021, for the capital, we were within 1%. And for the O&M, we were within 3%. So overall, the program was within 2%. Just to give you an idea also, for the last 5 years, we were within the rate metrics. We were 10% or under, plus or minus, for the last 5 years, consecutive 5 years. Well, this now takes us to the second part of the presentation, which is the PSRP distribution revamp.
I just have a quick question. There was a gap in terms of the journeyman training. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Back on your budget slide.
On which slide? I'm sorry.
So where it says journeyman training, there seems to be a significant gap in terms of the budget versus actuals. So on the distribution side, you were high, journeyman training, you were low, which is how you managed to be in that 3%. And I just wondered what the impact is of that level. I mean, the gaps are in your training programs. And I know that since we continue to have issues with respect to, staffing, is that reflective of those ongoing issues?
Yeah, so the journeyman training is not just our 5.30 training programs. It's inclusive of all of our journeyman training, which is our ARC training, which is our annual refresher training for all employees.
Okay.
So a lot of this was affected by COVID, where we stopped doing in-person training. So the material costs go down, the classroom costs go down, where people are doing it virtually, or we've suspended a lot of that training through these years.
Is that the same with respect to trainee training?
Trainee training is more specific to the 5.30 programs, and it's all of them, not just our lineman program. We did have a setback in our electrical mechanic program where we hired less over the last 2 years, and we've ramped that back up since then. So those numbers will increase moving forward.
Okay.
So, in light of the LA100 study, we found out there were several assumptions and caveats made. So the very top one is basically they assumed that all existing distribution overloads were already mitigated by the time the study was done by 2020, which we know that it will take probably over 10 years to take care of the existing overloads because we have a severe overloaded distribution system. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Also, one of the second assumptions were they assumed that all future overloads, distribution overloads, will be mitigated by installing new circuits or transformer banks. There were no new substations were assumed to be built. They assume that we have the space within the distributing stations just to continue to add transformers. And we know that's not the case. There were also the land acquisition and the community engagement was not even considered in the study. Lastly, the consideration for voltage, distribution voltage upgrade was not part of the study, which is we are in the toward the end of the study, and there should be a presentation coming to you in the near future, hopefully toward the end of the year, on this study. We are engaging with EPRI. We've done phase 1, and we're started the phase 2 of this voltage conversion study. And once that is done, there should be a roadmap on how we're going to proceed, and that will be presented to you. So I just want to focus on the diagram at the bottom. You guys know that the power system consists with the generation, transmission, substation, and distribution. LA100 is basically focused on the resources and the transmission, and that will be dealt with during that. The distribution system is basically the last mile of the power system to get the power to the consumers, the customers. And that's where the focus we need to pay attention to here, because a lot of it was not paid attention to in the study. The department in distribution engineering, basically, we do an annual distribution overload summary. And normally this is done after the heat waves, right after the summer, and we go back and we see what has happened, what circuits have been affected, what stations were impacted, and so therefore we need to plan for the next years to come. So in the 2020, after the heat wave, what we did is we found that over 460, again, the distribution system has 2 voltages, the 34.5 kV, which comes out of the receiving stations and feeds the large customers, the 4.0 kV, which comes out of the distributing stations and feeds the commercial and residential customers. we found that basically 460 4 kV circuits were overloaded above their rated capacity. That is approximately 27% of our circuits. We have 1,760 circuits, so there were 460 were above 100% of the rated capacity. On the 34.5 kV system, we found there were 23 circuits that were overloaded, and we have approximately 500 circuits. On the distributing stations, we have 124. 27 of them were over their rated capacity. And on the receiving stations, we have 23, and one of them was over its rated capacity. So the diagrams in the bottom just gives you an indication of basically what's being impacted. So like I stated, our 4.0 kV and 34.5 kV system is in dire need of upgrades and revamping. Next slide is basically came out of the LA100 study, and I'm sure a lot of you guys may remember this. This was used in several presentations here. Basically, it talks about load projection. That's how we're going to see from 2020 all the way to 2045. Looking at the graphs, they were it was done for the moderate case, the high case, and the stress case, all the way to 2035 and 2045. The study basically shows that it's estimated that our system will grow between 1,400 megawatts to 3,500 megawatts by 2045. And majority of that load growth will come from the electric vehicle charging and building electrifications too. I'm just using this as a demonstration of how the load is going to be impacted here. So what we did is after the LA100, distribution engineering went back to the blackboard, and we looked at what's expected of us, what was basically assumed by LA100, what does the system need, what do we need to do to be able to reach the 2035 goals. And basically, we did some analysis, we did some studies, and we have determined that the power system reliability distribution targets, again, the focus here is on distribution because the power system reliability has a lot of components. We're only focusing on the last mile. The distribution must be revamped. It's a message, I want to say it loud and clear. The distribution PSRP targets, upgrades must be revamped. What we have seen is we probably need approximately 10 new distributing stations by 2035, an additional 10 by 2045. Just an FYI, the department only built 3 distributing stations over the last 20 years. And we're saying we need approximately 10 by the next 12 years. It's a very challenging.
What is the physical footprint of a typical distribution station?
Well, normally you need about a half an acre.
Half an acre?
Yes. And normally it's, a lot of times it's localized, it's located in a commercial area or industrial area. You'll see some of them within the residential areas. We also have determined that we need 1 receiving stations by 2035 and about 7 34.5 kV racks within to expand our existing receiving stations. We definitely need to expand our distribution and substation automation, and we need to increase our distribution system upgrades targets by 4 to 6 folds, and I'll go over that. So what we're trying to say is we need to address not only the LA100 goals, also the high level of electrifications that's coming. We need to address the shortfalls on the distribution system, which is approximately 1,450 megawatts. We need to initiate the voltage conversion program because with the voltage conversion upgrade, we can, a new distributing station at a higher voltage, you can put probably double the amount of the 2 distributed stations. You can replace 2 distribution stations for 5 kV with 1 possibly 12 kV station. Basically, we need to revamp the power system reliability distribution upgrades into the 2035. That's what we should call it, PSRP 2035, really. This is a snapshot of our goals. Again, the distribution system has several assets, and I talked about the 4.0 kV feeders and the positions, how they land in the stations, the 34.5 kV circuits, how they land in the receiving stations, the voltage conversion upgrades, and new DS banks and new DSs, and same thing with 34.5 kV receiving stations and the racks. The first column is basically our fiscal year 2021 target. And I'm showing the next few years that we need to ramp up all these targets to be able to meet our electrifications and LA 100 requirements. So the majority of these assets and the targets will have to be revamped by 4 to 6 folds by year 2030. Just to give you an idea.
I guess you're going to kind of get to it, but if you go back, because you're just doing one distributor station is $40 million, what would be the ballpark cost of all of this page?
I have a slide on that.
Oh, you have a slide coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this slide's basically just to give you an idea on what would it cost just to install a new distributing stations. For one distributing stations, it will cost approximately $40 million. And basically, like I stated, we need approximately 10 of them by 2035 and 10 additional by 2045. And each one of these distributing stations will basically provide capacity of 60 to 80 megawatts. Just to give you an idea of what would it take to build a receiving station, it's approximately $130 million. 34.5 kV rack, we need 7 of them by 2035. It's approximately $20 million. And I have a slide on what the budget should look like for the entire revamp, which is right here. Like I stated earlier, the focus here is on the distribution upgrades. Okay, because the distribution system, PSRP, has other components, but here we're focusing on upgrades to meet the requirements that's coming ahead of us and the high level of electrifications. We have been spending as the base approximately $70 million a year. So with these upgrades, the proposed upgrades that we're coming to you for, we have to, the budget is going to look like, it's going to go is going to expand to approximately over $400 million by year 2030. We all know that we cannot do that overnight. Therefore, what we're doing here, we're proposing a ramp up. And we all know that currently the power system can cover this budget upgrade through, it has the mechanism of the pass-through because the PSRP is a pass-through. We could do that for the time being. However, in the future years, we need to really adjust that in the budget. Some of the other things that we need to do is basically we need to ramp up. Because of this ramp up in the budget, we need the resources to take care of this proposed target revamp. And the way we need to do that, we need to be hiring more engineering staff and also construction folks. With regard to the engineering staff, the power system is proposing to hire approximately 100 new engineers a year for the next few years. We need to expand on our NEET program, and we need to be flexible on the NEET program. We need to also basically to improve the quality of the candidates and basically attract high talent. We need to go back to on-campus interviews. For the last 2 years, we have been doing most of the recruitment on virtual, but I think going back to the on-campus is going to help us basically recruit more. The other thing is the industry is moving toward a hybrid telecommute option for the professional workers. And honestly, we need to consider that for DWP. Lastly, on the engineering side and also construction resources, we need to hire more for succession planning. Okay? With regard to construction resources, there are several challenges and solutions, and I'm going to turn it over back to David to cover that.
Thanks, Sager. Your comments earlier, Madam President, about charting a career path is a challenge we're all very familiar with. We can get the word out to our local high schools through targeted recruitment, but we have to have the door open on the backside through city personnel so that when we do find these qualified applicants through outreach and career fairs, we actually have a way for them to get into the program. A big step forward to that was the Introduction to Electricity course that the Power System sponsors. We hand that flyer out. I think we have nearly 1,300 young men and women signed up into that program through LA Trade Tech right now. And wouldn't it be nice to have a place for them when they finish that certificate program? That's still proving to be a challenge, but the 3 R's is what keeps us up at night: recruitment, retention, and resignation. On the line side, we have resignations. People are quitting the department and going to work for more lucrative compensation companies, private contractors, other utilities. The retention, just trying to keep those folks that we actually train through our own in-house training programs here has been a challenge. Some of them are actually quitting the day before their final practical at the training center, and we're losing them as soon as they graduate from the program. But through targeted recruitment, we can actually specifically go out and set up career fairs through our partners through LAUSD and reach out to these young men and women, and as well as military veterans, active duty, and former servicemen and women. But the challenge is keeping the bulletins open for our 5.30C training programs. Anything we deem as entry level, we would like to see those bulletins open competitive so we have something to offer. We're also working with Local 18 to adjust some of our DDRs and roles of our existing employees to try to have our high hazard trained folks focus on the high hazard work and bring on some new classifications such as electrician and battery tech to take care of our EV chargers and solar. We have to maintain our training or our hiring at the training centers. Like Mr. Wilbur said, we lost a whole year of hiring on the electrical mechanic side because of COVID shutdowns at city personnel. So as long as we maintain our 10-year staffing plans that we had in place out there, we should be able to keep up. We can ramp up through contracts to meet the demands of this work, but long term, the plan is to have our own trained, qualified, skilled craft workers in-house. Thank you.
So I want to get to the end of the presentation and just give you a recap. Basically, for fiscal year 2021, we have achieved the majority of our targets despite the COVID challenges. We revamped the distribution system asset upgrades to meet the LA 100 objectives. We have improved reliability performance from prior years. And basically, our expenditure for the PSRP was within the 2% rate case. What are our next steps? We need to basically finalize the targets and obtain stakeholders' buy-in. We need to seek management and board approval for this revamp. We need to determine the resources requirements, and we need to align the resources with the IHRP. It is a must. It needs to be included in the IHRP. We need to secure the budget and resources, and we need to implement the projects and the programs. Basically, we need to turn the PSRP revamp into the PSRP 2035. That's what I want to call it, the PSRP 2035, to be able to basically meet the challenges ahead of us, including the high levels of electrification. Now I'm ready to answer any of your questions.
Okay. Questions or comments from board members?
Thank you so much for the presentation. It's clearly a very critical part of our building our infrastructure. My comment and question has something to do with the Biden infrastructure bill. where there are billions of dollars, allocated for the grid, especially our transmission. How are we proceeding with that? What's the latest on that? How is LADWP going to benefit from that?
This is Nancy Sutley. Maybe I can comment on that.
Thank you,
We've
Nancy.
been having weekly meetings with our Washington representatives, so we're tracking very closely when solicitations will be coming out from the Department of Energy in particular on grid. We have met with parts of Department of Energy that are overseeing the grid. They've just actually reorganized. So we're just awaiting some of the solicitations, and as I said, we've had an opportunity to brief some of the folks who'll be in decision-making capacities at the Department of Energy regarding some of that infrastructure funding. So we're trying to do everything that we can to be ready to jump when the solicitations come out.
Is there money coming from the state as well that we could tap?
There is a significant amount of money in the state budget this year. I don't recall that there was anything specifically around grid infrastructure. Somebody else does, but we're also watching the state budget very closely. Expect there to be more. There's a number of bills in the legislature around streamlining potentially for infrastructure for the grid. So we're watching those bills closely. Not clear that any of them will be of any great assistance to us, but we will be monitoring all that very closely.
But where you see the biggest opportunity is on the federal side. Is that correct?
But that's where the big dollars are, and certainly, they have a great interest in supporting what we're doing. We have spent a fair amount of time with folks in DC on LA 100 explaining sort of what it says and what we're trying to accomplish. So we've been in DC. Marty's been in DC talking to folks in the administration around priorities. So we've continued to put a great emphasis on getting ourselves in line for some of that federal funding.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments from board members?
Just the magnitude of this is, everyone's so calm and collected. The magnitude of this should not be lost, and I appreciate very clearly how this was laid out, and obviously very much support it. I see that Fred has Dr. Pickle has a comment.
Going to say next, Dr. Pickle.
I think it was important that this presentation integrated the need with the HR requirements as well. I think we need to completely rethink some aspects of the training in order to get more people through the system. And we have to be not too cheap in terms of paying for people. The electric distribution mechanics are median with respect to the industry, and to grow that will probably have to be better than median. And that's reflecting the cost of living differences in the LA Basin. And the discussion of Sadie, Safi, and Katie, especially Katie, 2016 and 27 leading up to 2018, which was the first year, had poor years relative to the industry on Katie. So we need to continue building staffing in that area quite clearly from the historical data. And if you look forward, it's important to note that the growth due to electric vehicle charging doesn't occur until the late 20s. And maybe the early 30s, so we have some time to pace ourselves in there, but we don't need to waste any time because it takes 4 years to get people through training under today's training programs.
Thank
so
you.
We can't waste any time building this area.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other comments? All right, then I have a few. It is not lost on me that we spend a lot of time in this room talking about our goals and the ambitious nature of our programs, et cetera. And we continue to run into and a little bit to pass by the reality, which is that without the people to actually do the work, we can't get this done. And it doesn't even matter if there's money out there. If there's nobody here to do the work, the money doesn't matter. So the focus on what's possible without a laser-like and consistent and effective focus on how we get the people in the door on the recruitment, the retention, and the resignation. If we can't solve that, we just can't do it. So Marty, I guess my comments or questions then go to you, and that really is what we're going to do at this department to create a consistent and focused effort to secure the relief that we need and the cooperation that we require from city personnel in order to staff this agency to do the work that we're being called upon to do. And this cannot be business as usual. It cannot be anything we've done before. It's got to be a very senior, very focused, very consistent, and very accountable effort to allow this department to both hire, to retain, and that includes issues around compensation that we've got to address. I mean, Dr. Pickle is on target with respect to, the cost of living in Los Angeles. We are dealing, it's not just us that have this infrastructure drive. Everybody does. So as you know, we're competing with other organizations for the same folks. We've got to be cost competitive as it relates to that. We are losing ground, I know, every year. And we're losing ground in a way that, the dirty little secret inside the agency is we can't build it. So I would be looking for some report within 30 days from HR and from you regarding how we will be managing the recruitment, retention, resignation issue that we are confronting really critically inside, with respect to the power system. And as to the ground or the level of detail that we attribute to conceptualizing programs and looking at what's possible and the kind of detail that goes into doing the work, we have to have that kind of detail and that kind of execution as it relates to addressing our HR-related issues. We just have to. We can't keep saying, there are these issues, there are these problems, if only. And we can't train people and then not have a place to put them, not know that we can recruit them into our ranks. Workforce development is a major issue in the city of LA. So we should be able to generate the support to actually staff our department in a way that allows us to pursue and achieve the very thing that city leaders have made a significant priority. So there's some missed link here that we have to address. So I will be looking for you and, and our, DE&I leader to have a plan to work with the city to address it. And that's a plan that we will need to monitor and at a significant level because it's not something we can miss. I know that we've had folks within our organization who've been anxious to tell us for some time that we can't do the work. So I think that's my takeaway from this. As it relates to the resources, I think Commissioner Reyes is correct. Nancy's pointing out there will be resources coming from a variety of levels, in addition to, coming from our own internal resources. So finding the money, it's a big number, but I'm less concerned about finding the money than I am today about finding the people. And then finally, with respect to finding the people, or the people, first, so sorry that you're retiring. Excellent presentation, thank you. COVID's been difficult on a lot of levels. One of the significant difficulties has been the lack of opportunity, the absence of opportunity, at least for me, and time to really recognize and appreciate the incredible talent that we have within this organization, and to say and to demonstrate our gratitude. I know everybody gets paid for their job, but there's a level of excellence and professionalism that many, many, many of you exhibit every day. And there's just no way to say how grateful as a resident of the city I am, but really how proud I am to be associated with an organization that has throughout its history been called upon to do really incredible things, and that steps up and does them. I am looking forward to coming up with being more present and being more available and really focusing more on recognition and appreciation. So I appreciate all of your years of service, and also the time that is invested in mentoring the next generation with respect to things like hybrid work and how we secure and support our future workforce. The department certainly will be and will need to, in a very focused way, be looking at how we achieve that. I'm also very interested in how we continue with strong mentoring programs and coaching programs, even those that expand beyond people's, everyday work here at the department, and that may allow certain leaders to come back and help out. So with that, I appreciate the presentation, message delivered, and am looking forward to a management response to this presentation that aligns the power distribution resources with all of the other elements of LA 100. And I thought that was very good branding, looking at it as 2035. So thank you. And with that, I think we'll move on to the next presentation. Very well delivered. Thank you both. Marty, did you have any comments?
No, I didn't. Thank you.
Okay, we will move to our next presentation. Security Services.
Chris Cicino can talk about security services.
Oh, thank you for the mask removal. I do appreciate that. Before I begin, I wanted to do the same thing that you just did for my uniform folks. There are 250 men and women who are our uniform security services. They've been here all through COVID. There is no going home for them. There is no telecommuting for them, and nor do they complain. I think that in my work with them, comparing them to the private security firms that we hire, they are hands down the people that we need to do the job that they're doing today. So, and our focus, as you will see with the presentation, is a little bit on them and what's going on with our overtime. So I'll just begin, but I did want to express my gratitude. I don't have a lot of presentations to you that are public like this. I do have conversations with you, obviously, about security measures. But this is a good time for me to express to the board how much I do appreciate them. I thought the best place for us to start is to give you a high view of this organization from the Security Division. So there are 5 elements in security: the Uniform Security Group that I just mentioned, the Office of Emergency Management, Security Planning, and then our Admin Office, and then the Office of Special Investigations. If you look at the table that I'm presenting, you'll see the current number of vacancies in the uniform security section is 61. This will become the focus of our overtime expenditures, and I think that you'll understand some of the challenges that we face. So we are here because the Commission Office, the Chief Accounting Employee, identified us in the second quarter of having 46 uniform security officer personnel with an overtime rate of 100% of their base salary. One of those employees is at 196% of their base salary. Our overtime expenditures generally run about $13 million a year. You can see if we go back to 2016, 2017, they begin at about $8 million, and you can see them escalating to a peak in 2019, 2020 to nearly $16 million. And then they begin to reduce themselves as we change some of the things that we do to replace our current staff on assignments with private security staff in an effort to reduce our overtime, which we do to a significant level of nearly $3 million a year. These are the areas for which we are deployed. On the right-hand side, you'll see the term bids, and those are the hours for which in each year that our officers are out on bids. So the security officers bid their locations by shift and location, and they are at their bids for 1 year. And so last year we put in about 500,000 hours at our bids. Generally, these are non-overtime hours. These are hours that are just run through the system. That's at about 60 or 70 locations in and around the LA basin. The contract hours you can see in blue, you can see them increasing over time, and we begin to use our contract security officers to supplement and to offset our overtime. The specials I want to draw your attention to.
I'm sorry, does that mean it's more cost-effective to use the contract than pay the overtime? Or is it that the burden of the overtime is just too great?
So it is cost-effective to use the contract security. And so it becomes a balance of what's best for a facility in terms of services, what's safest, who provides the best services. But I also have some limitations you'll see in a slide later on with the MOUs. So contract security, I can use only up to 25% of my APR. It's a calculation set by the JLM with SEIU. And I'm always at 25%, just to maximize efficiency and to drive down costs. The way the MOU is...
How many contracts do we have?
I'm sorry?
How many contracts?
How many contract companies?
Yeah.
Approximately 7 or 8. This is a 3-year contract that is about $5 million a year, approximately.
Total. We're talking total 5 million?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
The specials is what I want to draw your attention to. So we don't know when these are going to happen. And as an example of that, during some civil disobedience, the water system called us and asked us to escort them while they were water sampling. And so we provided those escorts for several months. These are not predictable, and they're usually done on...
For several months?
For several months, Well, not recently, but like during 2020 when we had civil disobedience throughout the city, yes.
The civil disobedience didn't go on for months, it went on for days.
We were asked to do the escorts. The employees didn't feel safe, and so we provided those escorts. There are other items that we don't know that go on, such as construction. If we are replacing critical infrastructure, we will be asked to watch equipment while it's at the site, escort sometimes different work crews throughout the city. Sometimes construction will last a couple of weeks. And as we know, construction can last for months and sometimes even years. And so we have been on specials literally for weeks to months, up to a year or so, which we would use overtime to fulfill that obligation. Recently, in the fall, I met with the power system executives for all of the break-ins that we have at facilities. And in order to supplement those non-security facilities that we have, we supplemented those with overtime, and we continue to do so to thwart break-ins and thefts from our facilities. So when a system asks us for additional assistance, we put that in what we call a specials category. Those are not bidded locations, and those, for the most part, aren't contract employees. I'm sorry for the busyness of this next slide, but all this is us, the demonstration of the specials in the orange bars, the contract security in the blue bars, and as our locations and hours of specials go up, our contract hours are going up with that to try to offset the expenditure of overtime on our own security.
But isn't this really because we don't have enough people? I mean, what you're showing us is that you have been consistently at very high overtime usage year after year after year. The reason we're here isn't because of what was identified in the first 2 quarters. It's because it continues a pattern that has not been resolved and that in theory was to be resolved years ago. I mean, this keeps coming up as, I mean, it seems like given the amount of money that we were discussing in connection with, say, power distribution, these seem like little things, except how we manage little things is also an indication of how we manage big things. And this has been identified sort of this massive amount of overtime for security services, which could be procured much more cheaply if we just, right-sized our workforce. Hasn't gone away.
I don't disagree with you on that.
So then why hasn't it gone away, I guess is my question.
So in 2016, we had 33 vacancies. And in the subsequent years, we hired about 30. So that would have made us even. When you subtract attrition over the several years that took.
It's really hard for me to imagine in the city of Los Angeles with, all of the folks out there who are looking for work that we can't hire security guards. I mean, it just seems really difficult to imagine that it's difficult to get people into that particular classification.
I think much like the last presentation that we don't move quickly enough.
Well, the difference is in the last presentation, we were talking about a certain skill level in the workforce that is unique and difficult to acquire. Here, the skill level is different, or is there something that's highly specialized about this work or some requirements that make it, that create barriers to entry?
It's generally their background because we go through a background from personnel, and some are disqualified on the background. An example of that is the last time we made job offerings, there were 19 we made tentative job
Excuse me,
officers.
What is that noise? Am I the only one that hears
it's like
like
music.
There's a band across the street.
Oh, there's
Oh, is that what that is?
Yes,
Yeah,
because
it's a
been
bass.
driving me crazy for hours, and okay, so there's nothing we can do about that. All right.
So the 19 job officers, the 19 job officers offers, we were able to get 11 because of backgrounds. So 8 were eliminated due to backgrounds. That's just an example of maybe what we're dealing with at some point.
Well, yeah, except again, I mean, some of this, from my perspective, isn't, I mean, after a while, you begin to be able to anticipate what's going to occur. So you know if you're making 19 job offers that you're not going to get 19 people. So perhaps given whatever your vacancy is, you'll make more job offers so that you can deal with that.
Well, that's what's happening now. So we just interviewed in our process 75 applicants, and in the subsequent slides, we are making offers to 41 employees. But those 41 are about to go through background. If we were to get 41, then that reduces obviously my 60-something down to 20-something.
Yeah, but you won't get 41. So let's say you're making offers to 41 and you're going to get, you know, let's be optimistic and say you're going to get 30.
You're right. So the 41 that we're offering are transfer candidates that either come from LAWA, the port, or the security services from LAPD. Those are our best applicants because they will generally pass background.
So a couple things, because, and again, this is also workforce development, like for real. And I'm happy to get transfer employees, but, you know, that's not how you get people who don't have jobs. And so I'm not interested in processes that make it, that just rip off other departments in the city. I also want to know that we are able to bring people in, I mean, that we're able to offer employment to people who aren't employed or who are on the outside of the city looking for you know, represented employment. And so that to me is also a critical component of what we should be doing. And I think that really from a workforce perspective, what we don't have, it's much like the gentleman who called in earlier, and I didn't make a reference to it, but we should deal with it. The gentleman who called in and said, gee, it'd be nice if the department had a consistent policy or strategy, a consistent policy with respect to digital signatures. It would be really terrific if the department had a consistent policy and strategy with respect to recruitment and hiring so that we are meeting out all of our goals. But I do appreciate that you have an offer out that will diminish the number of openings that you currently have. I assume you have people that will retire, so you know, that say 30 that you may get as a result of the current offers will be further diminished by retirements. I don't know, although I assume that you're able to see who's going to retire. Like these don't come as shocks out of the blue.
So unlike the last presentation, we don't have a retention problem. Once we have them, if you look at the longevity of our security staff.
So you're not looking at retirement, it's really just hiring.
Yes, yes. So once we have them, they stay. We are the preferred
No, but I mean, people get old enough to retire, so I assume that people eventually leave. But if you're telling me that you don't have people that are at retirement age or that are planning to retire, or you don't have a bubble, you're not looking at that as a big issue for you, that's fine. So what you're really looking at is just the need to rapidly increase your employment numbers so that you can significantly decrease the overtime and some accountability around that, because this is not acceptable and it can't be sustained.
And I agree with you, and I worry about the exhaustion rate of the employees that are working this much. This is not a healthy thing for them to be doing. So after the transfer list that we will take employees from, we go right to the folks on the street, basically, who meet the minimum requirements that come in new. And so our recruitment for that is out now, and I think that is completed in May. So they'll have till May to go through that application process, and then we will fill up the rest of our vacancies, hopefully, through the street list, for lack of better terms. So they will not come from the transfer list. We try to do both at once, the best that we can. Some of the things that we get resistance on from the transfer list are the different retirements that they have to decide whether they want to give up and go into a new system or not. So that can be a little bit of a challenge, but nothing that I don't think that has been formidable at this point. We did get 75 applications, and we did pass on to background 41 people from the transfer list. So that will be definitely helpful.
Okay.
And then we will move on, because we need supervision for those people, and we'll get about 14 senior security officers who will elevate either from their current position, or we will get people that will apply because that is a classification within the city, and they can apply for these jobs, and they may or may not get those jobs. That will reduce, if we were to get the 41, and like you said, I understand the likelihood of that isn't great, but I'm hopeful. And then the 14 supervisors, that will reduce my vacancy rate to 2%.
Okay, well, you were going to give me MOU language?
Did you have another question, though, on that?
No, I was just thinking about hope, but go ahead.
I always have hope.
I know, but, you know, what I need to see is the actual realization of what's going to happen, because we can't operate on hope. We have to operate on data and on execution, so.
So there are some contributing factors that are challenges for us. The two unions that represent our staff are Local 18 and Local 721, obviously, for the uniform group. If we hire, supervision is represented by IBEW. So if we hire supervision, and in a 24-hour operation, it's very difficult when you're filling gaps. So if we need supervision and we hire them before their shift, we're paying double time. It's in their MOU, it's unavoidable, but it is very expensive. For SEIU, if they work overtime on Sunday, we pay double time. In a 24-hour operation, 7 days a week, Sunday is every day, 3 days a week for us. So we are mostly paying double time when we hire overtime.
I know, but that's why we don't want to hire overtime, right?
Well, I think that I'm at a point right now where I have to with 60 vacancies.
No, I understand, which is why you need to fill your vacancies. I don't consider the MOUs or the contracts to be problems. I mean, they are what they are. This is how our workforce is represented. We agree to these MOUs, so they're not constraints or complications. Those are the givens. So with this as the given, you absolutely know what the impact is of not being in position to deploy sufficient numbers of security officers to meet the needs of the department. And as I said, we're not here because of an issue that's a, sort of outlier. We're here because this is a consistent issue as it relates to security services, and it's a consistent issue that I would imagine that the department, should appreciate has to be resolved. That's the reason that we're here.
I agree. So here's our future challenges and what we're facing when we hire the 41.
Well, you're not going to hire 41, so don't keep saying that. I mean, only because it's not going to happen. So but continue.
So 6060 Sepulveda will open soon. It's under construction, and it will house a number of employees that will require 18 security officers to cover that 24/7. So of those possible 41, we can subtract 18.
Well, no, all you're telling me is that everybody has to plan to future activities. So for me, all I'm dealing with here are planning issues. So it's not like if we're about to open up a new facility, obviously this is not something that, again, is a bolt of lightning coming from some remote, like, oh my God, this is happening. All of these things are scheduled. We know these things are happening, so we have to be anticipating these things as it relates to.
I didn't anticipate it would take 18 months to offer 41 jobs.
Marty, I'm at a loss.
Well, part of the thing, and Chris, I mean, I know in the course of time, obviously the workload has increased and we have increased staff. How much has security grown? I think obviously we probably have not grown as fast as we need to in response, but I know we've had additional positions we've been adding as the workload has gone on. How much?
When I started, we had 36 vacancies, and because our APR, because our current APR has been allowed to go to a 0% vacancy factor, and because of attrition, we have lost and not gained.
But in total numbers of people, how much has the unit grown?
Just for uniform?
Yeah.
We have just stayed even.
Okay.
And so as we stay even and our services are wanted more, we have to make a choice whether to deploy people or to lock up facilities. In today's environment with rising crime, I prefer not to just lock up facilities, but to put people there. So
we do need additional positions is what we really need.
There are 2 facilities in Nevada that are federally regulated that currently have private security. Our goal is to have our people out there by 2025, which is another 18 security officers.
No, I see. I mean, I can read the slide. So I see that you've got, a significant number of security officers, including 21 that you're going to need for stock exchange. So with respect to these 57 new positions needed, is that there because you're not budgeted for them, or is it there because you're just telling me that you've got to hire them?
I'm not budgeted for those.
Well, I mean, again, I assume that there will be some attention given to this particular element of our work or personnel so that we can both budget and secure the men and women that are necessary to do work in security, and we are not, working people at the levels that we're currently working them, nor are we paying double time for folks covering shifts on these particular days. So it's pretty clear what's required to get out of this. It's also very clear that we have not been moving quickly enough to do it. So why don't you come back in 3 months and we'll see how we're doing. And we'll just have a report every 3 months to see where we are as it relates to working through this. But I would assume that this will be dealt with in the budget that's moving forward, because this is just not where we want to be. Anything else?
No.
Any questions? All right. Thank you. Appreciate that report. And we've got the next.
The next is talking about the Inspector General, and this week is a very brief report. I'm happy to report to the board that my panel has interviewed a number of candidates. We'll be completing a second round of interviews for 3 candidates tomorrow and Thursday. And I expect that we'll be ready to make a selection by the end of the week or the beginning of the following week, and should have someone on board very quickly. And I'm very happy with the quality of the candidates we have. They all have extensive background, both in all the areas we've identified, as well as in the legal profession. And I think they'll we have good choices facing us as we move forward for the process, and then they, I think, are all well situated to take the job quickly. I think they'll be able to move into the spot quickly, and we'll begin to staff the office underneath them.
Actually, this report did call for a report on staffing and the organization that was being set up. It was part of the motion that was introduced some time back.
I apologize. I think I missed that portion of that. We do actually have a staffing diagram laid out. I was not prepared to present that today. It exists. I just don't have it with me today. I apologize. But we do have a staffing plan with the office that has something between 18 and 24 individuals identified in the office.
Okay, we'll hear it next week. I'm not
I can
in the
present.
next meeting. Ann's report has gotten delayed until then as well, and so we will complete all of the reports that were called for with respect to response to the issues associated with David Wright and his reign as general manager. So I'm sorry, is that a question from the IG? I see your hand is up, or did you just not take it down from before? Okay, it looks like it just didn't come down from before. All right, so we'll put it back on the agenda for next time. Are there
Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
Just as a reminder,
yes.
Marty. Was a search entity engaged to find these candidates?
Yes,
or
yes,
was
we
this...
use a firm who searched for candidates and got a good pool of candidates for us.
Okay.
Yes, so we have a professional search firm, and they've been involved through the whole process.
Okay.
And continue to be involved.
Great.
Any other questions from board members? Seeing none, Dr. Pickle, did you have a question?
Yes. As part of those staffing reports, would it be helpful to review the update to the total compensation study?
Yes.
We have a presentation on that at your convenience.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you. Then we'll go to filed items. Are there any questions or comments with respect to filed items? And Marty, did you have anything that you wanted to offer with respect to item number 4 under J4, or is it all in the report?
Just briefly, there's a letter in the report that identifies what our plans will be moving forward. The unfair filing hearing with IBWs, it's in process. The hearing occurred last week. It was not quite completed, so they're scheduling the last days to wrap that up. Then we'll have a report back from the hearing officer. It'll go to the Employee Relations Board. We're preparing to follow city ordinance pending the findings of that, and I expect that we'll probably have a report out somewhere around May, and that'll lead the path forward for us. Ultimately, at the end, we'll need to negotiate with IBW as well as the other unions. We'll probably try to do as collectively as possible, so make sure, in any case, making sure all our employees are treated the same, and how we'll be able to apply the vaccine mandate that the city has at the department. So, but all the details that we have available are all in the filed item there.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. We'll move to the approval of minutes. I may have a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second.
I second.
Thank you. Would you call the roll?
President McCLAIN-HILL.
Aye.
President Reyes, Vice President Reyes.
Aye.
Commissioner Barad Hopkins.
Aye.
Commissioner LEHRER.
Aye.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Terrific. We are going to move into closed session, but prior to doing that, we'll take up items 1 through 7, L1 through 7. Commissioner Reyes, we'll see you in closed session.
All right. Yvette, can you text me when closed session starts?
Of course.
Thank you.
May I have a motion for approval of items L1 through L7?
So moved.
I'll second. Would you call the roll?
President McCLAIN-HILL,
Aye.
Commissioner BARAD Hopkins,
Aye.
Commissioner LEHRER,
Aye.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady.
Aye.
4 ayes.
All right, we'll now move, I have some items to take up in closed session. It is 12:20. Does 12:30 work for closed session for folks so that we can get in and get out?
Yep.
All right, then we will reconvene at 12:30.
At this time, we will recess and reconvene in closed session to deal with items M1 through M11. And in accordance with California Government Code Section 54957.1, we'll report any final actions taken therein. We are in recess until 12:30.
Please remain silent while all the mics are turned off. Thank you.
You said, I forget the gentleman's name.